This year we are celebrating our 189th year of Michigan history, and we go back to the beginning of the tavern. The foundation for the house itself, the tavern building, was laid in 1832. The structure was built on it, and it was a little house until the La Plaisance Bay Pike, which we know now as M50, came out of La Plaisance Bay in Toledo, crossed US 12 in about 1835. And it was a very strategic location because it brought people from all over Michigan, of course, down US 12 to buy land. Land was cheap in Michigan at that point. And they were looking for farms and starting new lives. And they were mostly from New York and New England. Yankees and Yorkers, we would call them. They came through the Erie Canal in 1825. Father Gabriel Richard was the territorial representative to Michigan. And he could speak from the back row, but he couldn't vote. And his goal was to get improvements made to what was known as the Old Sauk Trail at the time. It was an old military road and then at first an Indian path. And it became the major artery connecting Detroit with Chicago. Very busy place. And this tavern became the focal point of that, to Rhodes Crossing. So Sylvester Walker came from Cooperstown, New York in 1843, and he purchased this building and made it his home. And once realized that he'd found himself a gold mine. He'd operated a tavern in Cooperstown, so he knew what to do to make a tavern work. He got a postal location, post office location, and the location became known as Cambridge Junction, and it's still Cambridge Junction to this day. In 1853, Walker had made so much money that he built the brick tavern across the road. People know it today as the Brick Walker Tavern. It's been a wedding venue, an antique place, a restaurant, all those good things. And Walker lived and ran both of those buildings till he died in 1865. In 1865, his widow sold the White Tavern as a house, which is in the State Park, Walker's Tavern, to Francis Dewey, who had lived down at Dewey Lake. And Francis Dewey bought it because he felt the history of the area. He was very much into local legend, lore, myth, and history. And he started to write about it, and Francis Dewey became a noted historian in Michigan and founded the Michigan Pioneer and Historical Society, which met both in Lenawee County and Jackson County and ultimately all over the state as more chapters started to get together. So they would have annual meetings. The Brick Tavern was sold to another person. And that went on until 1922. The tourist attraction was created by the Reverend Frederick Hewitt. He was an Episcopalian priest, and he had had parishes in both Tecumseh and Clinton. And he knew about the Irish Hills. He loved hunting and fishing. He had a little tourist cabin, and he sold antiques on the side in the summer. And he went around these different parishes until he settled in Dearborn. And when he was in Dearborn, he met Henry Ford, the automobile magnate. And Henry Ford is starting Greenfield Village in 1929. And Henry Ford is shopping the country looking for antiques. And Fred Hewitt, of course, walked right into that one. He became a jobber for Henry Ford, which meant he went out and bought antiques. So Hewitt saw these two buildings empty in 1922, and he bought them. And it was his dream to create a tourist attraction, a museum devoted to the history of the area that Francis Dewey had espoused. So he did just that, and he created the white frame building that's in the park as the museum, and across the road in the Brick Tavern, he sold chicken dinners and antiques. People bought antiques, he'd give them a chicken dinner. So Hewitt carried on with the tourist attraction until the 1960s. His estate was settled in 1965. He had a daughter and a son. The daughter, Jean, got the 80 acres on the north side of the road with the White Tavern, and the brother got the brick building and 120 acres on the other side of the road. So those two pieces were split. In 1966, then, the property was given to the people of Michigan through what was then the Michigan Department of Conservation. and they were looking for a state park, another state park, and they settled on Walker Tavern, and they called it Cambridge Junction. And so we've been 100 years a tourist attraction and 55 years a state park. The park itself is open 7 days a week between Memorial Day and Labor Day. There are 3 historic buildings on the site. There's the home that Fred Hewitt and his wife built in 1929. That's our visitor center. And we have exhibits in there based on the life of the Hewitts and tourism in the Irish Hills. They have the historic tavern. Then we have a reconstructed barn that was put up in the 1970s, but it was based on an 1840s design. So basically it's a 50-year-old structure now too. So we can say they're all historic structures, and it's a great park. We have 80 acres there, and again, you can walk a few small trails, you can picnic on the grills. There's signage to read when there's an interpreter there. They give tours. We've had concerts there. We've had teas. For a while, we were the only state park in Michigan that had little girls coming in boas and big hats and gloves to tea with Clara Ford. Mrs. Ford visited the Hewitt house on a number of occasions, and she loved tea. And so we invite her through a YouTube video to come and have tea with us. There's a great clip that Greenfield Village has of her actually taking tea from the 1920s. And we play that up on the big screen, and then we have our tea. So I think people are surprised that it's there. I think a lot of people just find the driveway and drive in, and then they go, wow, I didn't know this was here. And it's just a nice, pleasant place to walk. We have baseball games that play there, and it's just a great place to relax. And I think that's the aha moment that people can say, hey, I'm outdoors, I'm looking at some cultural resources, I can enjoy an event and get outside.